Somewhere in your backyard, or growing quietly along the edge of your garden, there are plants that people reached for long before the first painkiller ever sat in a medicine cabinet. Plants that, for centuries, were the answer when the head throbbed, when the temples tightened, when the day simply became too loud. This isn't about replacing your doctor, and it isn't about magic. It's about remembering what grows within a few steps of your door. Today we're looking at 10 backyard plants traditionally used to ease headaches, and why so many of them have quietly earned a place beside the pills we swallow without a second thought. Here's the thing worth understanding first. A headache is rarely just one problem. Sometimes it's tension, the muscles of the neck and scalp pulling tight like a drawstring. Sometimes it's blood vessels widening and pressing where they shouldn't. Sometimes it's inflammation or stress, or a night of poor sleep, or simply a body asking for water and rest. Pills tend to hit one target, hard and fast. Plants work the way nature tends to work, gently and on more than one front at once. Many of the ones we'll talk about carry compounds studied for anti-inflammatory, calming, or circulation-supporting effects. Not a single switch that shuts the pain off, but a slower, steadier kind of relief that generations learn to trust. And here's what's easy to forget. The healers who used these plants weren't guessing. They watched, season after season, which leaf eased the pounding head and which one did nothing at all, and they passed that knowledge down like a family recipe. Much of what modern science now studies in a laboratory began exactly there. In a garden, in a kitchen, in the patient hands of people who had no pharmacy but paid very close attention. So none of this is folklore for its own sake. It's the oldest medicine we have, still growing right where it always did. If you want to keep learning which plants can support your health, there's a new one growing on this channel every week. Subscribe and let's tend this garden together. The first is Feverfew. If any plant has earned the name the headache herb, it's this one. Behind its small daisy-like flowers hides a compound called parthenolide, studied for the way it may calm the inflammation and blood vessel changes tied to migraines. For hundreds of years, people chewed a leaf or two at the very first warning of a headache. Though the fresh leaf is bitter and can irritate the mouth, so many prefer it dried, in a tea or a capsule. Traditionally, it was taken in a small daily amount, not to stop a headache in the moment, but to make them arrive less often. A word of care here. Feverfew isn't for pregnancy, and if you've taken it daily for a long time, stopping all at once can bring on what people call a rebound headache, so it's eased away slowly. In the garden, Feverfew is almost eager. Give it full sun and well-drained soil, and it will reseed itself, returning year after year on its own. The second plant carries one of the most important stories in all of medicine, white willow. Long before there was ever a tablet called aspirin, there was willow bark. Healers in ancient Greece and cultures long before them stripped that bark and brewed it for pain and for fever. What they couldn't have known was the name of the thing working inside it, salicin. Centuries later, chemists took that very compound and reshaped it into acetylsalicylic acid, aspirin itself. So when we say backyard plants can rival the pills, willow isn't really a comparison. It's the origin of the pill. The bark was traditionally simmered into a bitter tea for headaches and aching joints. The same cautions that come with aspirin apply to it. It isn't for children, not for anyone allergic to aspirin, and not to be mixed carelessly with blood thinners. Willow loves damp ground and open sun, and it grows fast near water. Third is peppermint, and this one you may already have on a windowsill. Crush a single leaf, and you learn its secret at once, menthol. That cool rush isn't only pleasant. Diluted peppermint oil, rubbed on the skin, has been studied for easing tension-type headaches, the kind that sit like a tight band around the forehead. The coolness relaxes clenched muscles and sends a soft, distracting signal that quiets the ache underneath. Traditionally, a little diluted oil was smoothed onto the temples and the back of the neck, never near the eyes, and never undiluted on sensitive skin. A simple cup of peppermint tea does gentler work from the inside, loosening the tension that stress and slow digestion can knot together. In the garden, peppermint grows so freely it becomes a bit of a bully. Best kept in a pot, or it will quietly claim the whole bed for itself. Fourth, lavender. Few scents settle a person as quickly, and that calm is exactly the medicine. Lavender is rich in a compound called linalool, studied for easing anxiety and the tension headaches that stress pulls tight. Simply breathing in lavender, from the fresh flowers, or a drop of oil warmed between the hands, has been shown in research to soften headache intensity for some people. A warm cup of lavender tea in the evening does double work, quieting the mind and inviting the kind of deep sleep that prevents tomorrow's headache before it ever begins. Lavender asks for almost nothing. Full sun, lean and dry soil, sharp drainage. In fact, the harder its life, the stronger its perfume grows. Fifth is ginger, the humble root with a fierce reputation. Its warmth comes from gingerol, a compound studied for calming both inflammation and nausea. And that second gift matters more than it sounds, because the worst migraines so often arrive with a wave of sickness. Some studies have set ginger beside common migraine medicines and found it held its own, easing the pain while settling the stomach at the same time. Traditionally, a thumb-sized slice of the fresh root is simmered in water for 10 minutes into a strong, spicy tea, taken at the first sign of trouble. Ginger grows from a piece of root pressed just under the surface of warm, rich soil. It wants heat and a little patience, but even a single pot on a bright sill can hand you a harvest by season's end. Sixth, rosemary, the old plant of memory and clear thinking. Beyond the kitchen, it carries a long history as a headache remedy, especially for the dull, heavy ache that comes with tension and sluggish circulation. Its leaves hold rosmarinic acid, studied for anti-inflammatory and circulation-supporting effects. Traditionally, the leaves were steeped into a tea, or a crushed sprig was simply held to the nose to clear a fogged, aching head. In old herbals, rosemary was even tucked into a pillow or worn on the brow to keep the morning headache at bay. Small rituals, but ones that carried real aromatic compounds to work. Rosemary is a woody, generous shrub that loves full sun and dry feet. Plant it once in well-drained soil, and it can grow for years, greeting you with a wave of fragrance every single time you brush past it. Seventh is chamomile, gentle enough for the very tired and the very tense. Its tiny flowers hold apigenin, a compound that settles softly onto the same calming receptors in the brain that many sedatives reach for, which is why a cup before bed loosens the grip of a stress headache and carries you towards sleep. For generations, chamomile tea was the evening ritual in countless homes, the quiet answer to a day that had pressed too hard. There's a reason it became the tea we hand to a restless child or a worn-out friend. It doesn't force the body to do anything. It simply invites it, gently, to let go of the tension it's been holding since morning. It grows easily from seed in full sun, its little flowers ready to pinch off all through the summer, and the more faithfully you harvest, the more generously it blooms. Eighth, lemon balm. Brush its leaves and a soft lemon scent lifts into the air and somehow lifts the mood along with it. A cousin of mint, lemon balm has been used since the Middle Ages to calm frayed nerves, ease tension, and quiet the headaches born of stress and restlessness. It shares that same rosmarinic acid, and it pairs beautifully with chamomile in an evening cup. Like all its minty relatives, it grows with almost no effort. Sun or a little shade, ordinary soil, and a happy tendency to spread, so give it room to roam, or a pot to call its own. And that's the quiet beauty of all of this. Every plant we've named can be grown by your own two hands, in a pot on a sill or a forgotten corner of the yard. If this garden has caught your curiosity, there is so much more growing here. Subscribe, and let's keep tending it together. Now, the last two. Ninth is Butterbur, a plant with broad umbrella-like leaves once used to wrap butter on hot summer days, which is where the odd name comes from. Of everything on this list, Butterbur has some of the strongest research behind it for preventing migraines, thanks to compounds called pedicins that help relax tight blood vessels and calm inflammation. But this one carries the firmest warning of the whole garden. Raw Butterbur contains natural substances that can harm the liver, so it must never be used straight from the ground. Only specially prepared, purified extracts, clearly labeled as free of those harmful compounds, are considered safe to take. It's a striking, dramatic plant for a damp and shady corner, but its medicine belongs in careful, expert hands, never in a homemade tea. And 10th, Passionflower, perhaps the most beautiful plant on the whole list, with blooms that look almost too intricate to be real. Traditionally, it was used to quiet a racing mind, and it's exactly that gift that makes it a friend to the headache that grows out of anxiety and sleeplessness. By loosening the nervous tension that tightens the scalp and the neck, Passionflower eases the headache closer to its root, rather than only chasing the pain once it arrives. Early settlers learned it from the native peoples who already knew it well, and it kept its place in the home remedy shelf for generations after. A mild tea of the dried leaves and flowers was the old way, taken quietly in the evening, sometimes with a little chamomile or lemon balm stirred in for good measure. It's a climbing vine that loves sun and something to hold on to. A fence, a trellis, an old railing. And it rewards you with flowers worth growing even on the days your head never aches at all. 10 plants. Feverfew and Willow, Peppermint and Lavender, Ginger and Rosemary, Chamomile and Lemon Balm, Butterbur and Passionflower. None of them are magic, and none of them replace a doctor's care when a headache is severe, sudden, or simply unlike any you've felt before. And a gentle reminder before you begin, plants are powerful, precisely because they're active, so if you take other medicines or you're pregnant, it's always worth a quiet word with someone who knows your health before you brew that first cup. But together they tell an old and steady truth, that relief was never only something to be bought. For most of human history, it was something to be grown. Some of these may already be out there right now, waiting quietly by the fence line. Maybe this is the season you finally learn to use them. If you grow only one thing this year for the small aches that living brings, let it be one of these. And we'll see you in the next one.